What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we are here at the Nurburgring Nordschleife as Polyphony decided, hey, you know what, time to bring this bad boy back onto the daily races, and we're gonna see how we do here for the 2 laps around the most freakishly amazing track, and just try to avoid all the carnage, try to avoid all the cars, and avoid all the incidents that are gonna end up happening here as we get our 3, 2, 1. So away we go now as we start off on the final couple of corners. Just making sure we brake right where we need to before we head down to the main straight, if you can even call it that, and make our way to the line to get ourselves into lap number 1. So 2 laps around the ring, around the green hell. In the group 4 cars, we elected to go for the Nissan GTR as a couple of other guys decided to go for the Mercedes. I think a Mitsubishi behind us and some other different cars like an Aston Martin and stuff like that. But we decided to go with the Nissan GTR because it was the best car for time trial, and it actually was one of the best ones for the track as we tried to avoid a Griffith coming back from the barrier, and took a nice little kiss there, and luckily we were able to survive that and gain 1 free position. Now everything was going good for us for the first half of the lap until we got to this triple right-hander, and unfortunately we just went a tad bit too deep into the corner, took a little bit too much speed, and we decided to take a little trip to the barrier and give it a little kiss as well. But luckily for us, not lucky for Griffith, we were able to maintain our 8th place position and stay right ahead of him, as we have a hungry Griffith all over our rear here, heading into a couple of windy bits before we lead to a long flat out throttle section of the track. So just trying to make sure that we get onto the throttle, not make any mistakes here before we hit the braking zone and lead ourselves into the long throttle area. We're just heading down into the hairpin right here, braking where we need to make sure that we get a very late apex onto this, I guess you could call it somewhat of a straight, and try to get ourselves as big of a gap as we can away from Griffith, because the slipstream is just very, very powerful on this track, and if you can break away from that slipstream, it can be very, very useful for us. As we get a yellow flag here for spinning Mexican up ahead, as we got Mike accidentally missing his entrance into the corner, and it looked like something happened to him, either whether he got pushed out or he just completely missed his braking point and went straight into the wall. But we're able to gain another free position now as we work our way up into P7, and luckily for us, we were able to just extend the gap just a bit more on Griffith, and it's actually extended from about 7/10 to now 9/10 of a second away from him, and that's going to be beneficial towards us, especially when we get to the very, very long straight right before the end of the lap. So yeah, again, you really want to break away from that 7.5 of a gap, because once you get to the long straight, if the car is right behind you and he's able to get in your slipstream, it's very, very easy for them to make the overtake done before you get to the final couple of corners. So that was one of the things that I was really, really worried about whenever we came around here, especially towards this final second carousel, is it just was not my strongest part of the track. So for some reason, after the carousel, all the way until this straight, this was where I was losing majority of my time. I was probably losing about 2 or 3 seconds on time trial, and even in the race, as Griffith had a service penalty. Lucky for us there, we're able to kind of extend the gap here. But yeah, just after the carousel into the, before we head down to this straight, it just was not my strongest part of the track, and everywhere else I was pretty decent at, especially the first part of the track. But as long as we can keep a decent gap away from someone after the first carousel, I think we should be all right to try to hold off a position. But if for some reason someone's able to get to our rear and get just close enough to get into the slipstream and take full advantage of it once we get down to the long straight, then we're going to do everything in our power to try to defend, and it will either work or it will either not. We'll just figure it out once we get to that point. But as we make our way now onto the second lap here, we're just biding our time here, just making sure that we hit all of our apexes. We know we got a somewhat decent gap away from Griffith, but that gap slowly and surely was starting to decrease as we advanced our way more and more into lap number 2. As the Griffith just seemed to have found some pace here, and he was just able to just close up the gap now. And lucky for us, you know, this is basically a single file track for majority of the lap. And so it's going to be a little difficult for him to try to go for the overtake. As he tries to go to the right-hand side, he goes for the lunge, gives us a little bit of a tap, side-by-side contact going into the left-hander, and a brave move indeed from Griffith, but it all paid off as he was able to get the overtake done. And now we're having to chase him this time as we make our way into the hairpin. We accidentally just brake a tad bit too late, run into his rear. I know that looked a bit bad on my end, and it looked like I was trying to take him out, but I promise I was trying to race him cleanly, but just braked a bit too late, went into his rear. And lucky for Griffith, that actually helped him more than hurt him, because he was able to gain about a good second advantage on us. And not only that, we held up everybody behind us, so now he's got a nice gap advantage from us and the Mexican Mike right behind us, or right in front of us now. And now we have Diego right behind us trying to go for an overtake, but looks like he backs out, thinks wisely of it, because this is going to be a very fast corner that you want to go single file in. And as we come out of the corner, you can see Griffith goes straight into the wall, and he's going to hog the inside here as we try to keep it onto the outside. Both us and the Mexican go a bit wide, go into the grass. And unfortunately for Mike, he goes straight into the wall, spins out. We were able to just somehow keep it straight even after hitting the wall. And now we find ourselves in 9th place right behind Diego and Griffith. And we have ourselves a little race here now, because it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens here coming out of the carousel. And advancing our way all the way till the end of the lap, as we have about 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left in the race. So as we advance now to our weakest part of the track, you can see that Griffith is struggling with pace. Not sure if he just has the lingering fact of having cars right behind him in his head, but for some reason Diego goes into the inside, makes contact with Griffith, and Griffith goes straight to the wall, and just basically like the Red Sea just parts his way, and we're able to go right in between both of them. And somehow we find ourselves in 7th place here, and all we have to do now is just make sure that we don't bin it, and we should be able to come home with the 7th place position. What a turn of events. But as we come into the fast section of the racetrack, we accidentally just clip the curbing a bit wrong, lose the back end, go spinning into the wall, and Griffith out of nowhere comes right back at us, goes for that 7th place position. And now he is in the hot spot here. He's able to get around us here. And as we make our way into the second carousel, we've got to be absolutely perfect if we want to keep up with him. And we're able to do so here as the gap is starting to close. Still not over within this race, as we have about a 0.4 of a second gap from Griffith. But as we come out of this long, winding right corner, unfortunately, we just don't get on the power strong enough. And Griffith is able to just pull away and make a gap away from us. We have right behind us Diego with a, I think it was like a 2 or 3 second penalty. And as we make our way down the very, very long straight, it just wasn't close enough to get into the slip and try to make a move onto the final couple of corners. As we tried to brake as late as we can, lunge it in here, but there's absolutely no way that we were going to send it from, 7-8 tenths behind. As we come out of the final corner, leaning our way down to the line, it's going to be in 8th place position as we shake the car in frustration. And that was not too shabby of a first race, with a lot of drama, a lot of crashes, but it definitely felt like we could have done a little bit better, and we're going to see if we can do so here on the second race. So here we go again, second time around the Nordschleife, as we're going to be starting off in P8. And we're going to see where we finish off, as we have 93 right ahead of us. We got Shaper right ahead of him. Got Boku right behind, and B Rap right behind Boku. So leading our way down to the line, we find ourselves here right behind 93. We're making our way into the first corner and into the section that I'm fairly familiar with. And working our way up even further into the lap now. Making our way halfway through the racetrack. We're still just right behind 93, so he goes a bit wide, just goes into the grass a little bit, loses a bit of traction on the corner, or off the corner, and we're able to close up the gap just a bit here and see if we can put some pressure on him, as we didn't want to let Shaper get too far away up ahead. We do know he had some pace, but we still had to get around 93 before, we can try to unleash any type of pace and try to catch up to him. But as we come out of that right corner, we accidentally just go a bit too narrow into it, and that allowed Boku to get a really, really great run down this semi-straight, I guess you can call it. But luckily we had the inside line heading to the hairpin, and we were able to get a really, really good line through there. But unfortunately, Boku just had a really great exit as well, and we just had to fall back in line right behind him because we didn't want to go side by side, especially through this area right here. And so we decided to go behind him, stay right behind Boku, and try to see if we can work with him here. Try to see if we can bump him up to catch up to 90 threats. And maybe, just maybe, these two can start fighting, and who knows what can happen from that. You know, we saw two cars crash last race, especially heading off of the, you know, the final part of the track. But who knows, we might be able to get something going on here if Boku can catch up to 90 threats before the, you know, the final laps here around the north side. So Boku gets a really good run coming out of the hairpin, leading our way into the carousel now. And he was just able to stay right behind 90 threats, and this is exactly what I was planning to happen. And luckily for us, everything is working out according to plan. But as we go into the right-hander, Boku just goes a bit too deep in there, makes a little bit of contact with 90 threats. 90 threats goes into the grass, and he accidentally goes straight into the wall after making contact with the grass. And that is textbook of what exactly we were hoping for. I mean, I felt bad for 90 threats that happened to him. Only I thought Boku was gonna get, you know, taken out with him. But yeah, it just seems to always happen around the Nordschleife as people get, you know, kind of, I don't want to say impatient, but just lose a little bit of focus, a little bit of contact is made, and just because of how tight the road is, if you make just a slight bit of contact with the grass as well, with any part of the tires, just going straight into the barrier, or you're losing it. So yeah, it's just unfortunate for him. He got involved in that, and now we gain a free position here, and as well as another free position, as I believe it was Shaper that accidentally lost control into the final corner, makes contact with the barrier, and now we've gained two free positions here in the span of about 2 or 3 minutes, and now we are up into P7 as we're gonna try to see if we can chase down Boku here and try to gain that P Steve away from him, and come home with a decent finish here around this racetrack. So make our way down now to the right hand side. Almost the exact same thing happened to Boku that happened to Griffith on the race earlier, except this time Boku wasn't able to get onto the track as soon as Griffith was, and we were able to just gain the overtake. And now we are up into P Steve as we have a car right ahead of us, Triple H, driving in the I forgot what car that was, but very, very risky car that he is driving there, especially because of how slow it is down the straight. It's really not one of the fastest cars when you get onto the straight, but it's decent on the corners. But really, really interesting that he decided to go with that car. I know Triple H is a very, very quick driver, one of the fastest guys here at the Nordschleife in the Americas. So we'll see how well he can hold us off, especially in that car. But as we make our way down into the hairpin once again, we have a Cyrus right behind us and going around us. So it was a nice little side-by-side battle with him, but it was just too much to hold off, and he was able to get the overtake done in the Mustang of all cars, which is fairly interesting. But again, leading down through this windy section full throttle, we give him a nice little tap here to try to catch up to Triple H, and unfortunately for Triple H, he dips 2 wheels into the grass, goes straight into the wall, and we're able to just get around him before that little kink and try to go for an overtake on Cyrus, look onto the inside, but unfortunately just nothing we can do there. Really didn't have an opening, and if we wanted to, we could have pushed him out of the way, but just didn't want to race Cyrus like that. He's too much of the bro, you know what I mean? But as we come into the carousel for the final time, let's just try to keep up with him, but unfortunately that Mustang in those hands it's just too quick for us, and he just was able to extend the gap here, and now it's about a 2-second gap away from us and Cyrus as we lead our way down to some of the final parts of the racetrack. So as we're coming out of this long right-hander, it's been one of my struggle points. As you can see, we just lose so much time on the right-hander. I think there was one race where I lost about a second and a half, but yeah, things get a little bit interesting as now we have Shaper in our slipstream. And when I said that we were going to try to do everything we can to try to defend down the straight if we get someone right behind us, that's exactly what I'm doing here. We're going to hold off on the inside, but he does get around us, and that's actually going to work towards our advantage because he probably got around us a bit too early, because now we're going to have the opposite effect and get his slipstream, try to sink onto the inside, side by side with the Chilean, to make our way into the final few corners. Side by side here, we brake as late as we can. We give him plenty of room. He goes a bit wide into the right-hander. Side by side again as we make our way into the final corner. And unfortunately, we get squeezed onto the inside. Shaper makes contact with us. We make contact with the barrier. And we lose that 6th place position away from him. And we come home with a P7 after a dramatic ending to the lap. And I'm not gonna lie there, I was a little bit heated at the moment, but when I look back at the replay, it looked like I kind of turned in a bit too early, made contact with the barrier, and he just made contact with us too. So it was, in a way, always gonna happen that we were gonna make contact with the barrier, but just unfortunate because it was such a great run, and we probably could have came home in P6 or P5, but we had to hold off of speeding Cyrus, and also we made that simple mistake on the final corner. But anyways, guys, let me know what you guys thought about the video. Let me know what you guys have thought about this week in general for daily races. I've been really enjoying it. Always a great time here at the Nordschleife, and especially with these Group 4 cars, just perfecto. Anyways, if you guys really enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like and hit that subscribe button down below if you want to catch more content. We're almost at 8,000 subscribers, so I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, and until next time, guys, hope you guys have a good one. Until then, peace.